I had to wait a minute. I was watching the camera to determine that suddenly, oh, now it's live. It was spinning and I was talking. Welcome to VidDevo Live. This is kind of our live opportunity to use YouTube's channel to maybe talk about some things that you don't get the opportunity to give me feedback on. Because after all, right now, during this live broadcast, in my house or my apartment, there's live chat going on, which is kind of interesting because then you got, kind of me watching the chat, which I don't know that I really wanted to go on. And I hope nobody chats. But the point being is that I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about getting your ducks in order, getting your ducks in a row, getting your, as it were, at this time of year, maybe your goslings in a goose line, or how does that work for geese? Who knows? But let's just say that having your flock in order, that almost works. Or maybe getting in reality check, a opportunity to take the time to think about this summer's coming. And you're going to have a lot of exciting things to do, to go out and to enjoy and to participate in. I know for me, I'll be out on the water as much as possible, kayaking and videotaping and writing books and writing articles and doing all kinds of things that I enjoy doing because I have the opportunity to be set free in a way that most others don't. I'm broke. That means that I don't have to worry about a lot of bills. Most of you that accumulate a lot of property and things and do all kinds of things with your freedom to choose what you would do with your life, get yourself bound up and wound up and caught up in things that prevent you from doing all that maybe God or life or kisma or whatever you're believing in nowadays prevents you or circumvents you or allows you to go out and to have a meaningful and enjoyable life. You see, that's what I want to talk about, is that where I live, I just watched some ducks walk by. Now, it was a mama duck and it was a papa duck. There was no question about the mama duck or the papa duck. You see, the papa duck is all decked out. He's got some fine treads on. He's looking good. Matter of fact, he's shiny. And then mama duck, like most mamas, she's kind of tired, worn out. She's running her poor tail off, looking around to make sure that all of her ducks are in order. She's paying attention to what those baby ducks that are following behind her are doing. And as weird as it is, I'm not sure that she had that many. Maybe she did, and maybe the cats haven't gotten to it yet. There are wild cats around, or cats that, unfortunately, in this apartment complex, they feed them. I haven't figured that one out yet. But anyways, here they have cats that kill baby ducks, because there's a little pond that, well, it's not really a pond. It's kind of like a cement hole. But anyways, a pond that the ducks go to, and, they grow until they're either eaten or fly away or go down to the river or someplace for the winter. So having said all that, Papa Duck, he basically just watches out for Mama Duck. He doesn't really pay all that much attention to the baby ducks, except for every now and then when they grow up to kind of shoo them off by biting them. Have you ever been bitten by a duck? Well, that's not as bad as getting bitten by a goose. Goose is even worse. But what I wanted to talk to you about is your life. You want to get things in order so that you can enjoy life more to the accomplishment of what you thought life was all about than what you found life is really about. And a lot of you have been getting away with what you thought you could get away with for quite a while. And then suddenly reality check came crashing in on you. Kind of like what's happening to Donald Trump. The man himself, was probably just an innocent boy, and he got forced into some bad situations with his parents because they were kind of messed up. And then he got even worse when he grew up, because then he started manipulating things and lying and, working the system for his own benefit and doing what most young men do: lie, cheat, steal, and manipulate. And that's what a lot of men do. If they can get away with it, they'll do it. If the law doesn't catch them, a lot of times you'll find young men failing and falling. That's kind of why whether it's the book of Mormon or whether it's the Bible or whether it's Islam, the Quran, or whatever it is, they're always warning young men to flee youthful lusts because, frankly, we know Donald Trump got into a lot of trouble and never quit getting into trouble. Now he's got to pay the price. He's moved himself into the public arena, and God is watching him and causing him to deal with some things in his life that he has to deal with. Maybe you're in that position too, where you have to deal with things you didn't want to deal with, and now it's come time to, face the music, to pay the piper, to get your ducks in order. Now, there's nothing wrong with having made mistakes in the past. The difference is, are you still making mistakes in the future? What's a mistake? Well, if you have to pay for it legally, emotionally, spiritually, that's a mistake. You kind of want to plan for and have a plan for doing things you want to do. If you were going to go out, let's say kayaking, you want to make sure that you have a kayak. That would obviously be one of those things. Well, if you're a Christian, then obviously you want to have a Christ-like attitude or perspective on life, meaning more like Jesus than like the world and its ways. But nowadays, Christians, dare I say, are supporting something that's not Christian and then acting like they're more worldly than they are Christian. So what does it mean to be a Christian? That's a good question, because now they're arguing about what does it mean to be a Muslim. You see, there are people that think that Muslim is all about terrorism and fighting and wars. And, there are even Christians now. I've even read this Jewish Messianic Christian one that decided to say, well, the truth about Muslims, because right now it's popular to pick on Muslims. The truth is humanity is like humanity no matter where you go. I don't care if you're a Buddhist. I don't care if you're a Catholic. I don't care if you're a Protestant, a Mormon, a Muslim, whatever you are. There are certain facts that are real in your life. Wanting to have a normal life means having a family, raising children, seeing that they're taken care of, growing up as a man who's respected by his family or his friends or his community. Everyone around the world, no matter where you're at or how you are, you see that happening in some degree. Some to a lesser degree that it looks like, okay, maybe in an African nation where there's wars going on, they're raising child warriors. Yes, they are. But if they weren't, they're normally raising their children to be productive members of their society. The same way that Muslims do, the same way that Chinese do, the same way that Japanese do, the same way that Australians do, the same way that Americans do or should be doing. People are people, and wherever you go, however they are, whatever they are involved in, they do have as a base premise this idea of family. And I don't care if it's a family of two men raising a child or two women raising a child. They're still trying to have a family. They're still trying to do what there was a pattern in the beginning to do. And I can see that in the reality of the ducks walking by, getting their ducks in order. And so for me, hey, I look at a duck and I say, wow, what can I learn from a duck? I learned to duck. If there's things coming over my head, I'm going to duck. Or I look a little closer and I realize that there's an order to the ducks. Ducks are kind of doing these things. And I'm not going to come out and say, something Christian to you and say, oh, man, you got to be a man, you got to be a woman, you got to have your ducks, in order. No, what I'm going to say to you is, I don't care if you're a Muslim, be a good Muslim. If you're a Mormon, be a good Mormon. But be true to what you are. In other words, if it's true that you believe in Christianity, then for God's sake, in the Christian God, be a good Christian or be a Christian, period. I got news for you. The evangelicals that are hanging around Donald Trump are not Christians. They are political pundits. They're promoting a agenda that's all politics. So they're politicians. That's easy. Frank Graham is famous for that. He's always gone away from doing evangelism back into politics. John Hagee, the same thing. 700 Club seems to be doing the same thing. CBN, Trinity, even Calvary Chapels now are getting more involved in politics than they are in religious observance of following Jesus. You see, Jesus wasn't all political. He wasn't political at all. As a matter of fact, he didn't want anything to do with this world. He has a kingdom. Now, getting off of the Christianity, let's go to a Muslim. If you're a Muslim, let's do what Muhammad said. I mean, come on now. Let's really talk about Islam and Muslims. I know Muslims. I've known Muslims different times in my life. They are not terrorists. You have to be an idiot to go after some other teaching inside of Islam to become a terrorist. You have to be propagandized, just like in Christianity, the Catholic Church propagandized people to go out and kill in the Crusades, or in the Inquisition, even worse, when they decided to kill the Protestants. You got to be a Catholic or you die. Renounce your faith. Renounce your faith so you believe in my faith. So you see, Christianity isn't any more innocent of evil influences coming into a religious observance than Islam is. Most Muslims would just like to have a family and a home and live in peace. And that's the reality of the ducks in order. The ducks just want to go out and they want to eat, they want to sleep, they want to raise their ducklings. And it's kind of cute. I mean, maybe you need to get old in order to slow down your life enough to sit next to a pond and watch some mother ducks and baby ducks and father ducks and how they all get along until they meet another family and then they seem to not get along. You ever seen ducks chase each other? Well, that's what's going on in the pond. And that's where maybe you are today. Maybe your pond isn't big enough to support, the reality of all your ducks and ducklings that you got. I mean, we just had a new kind of poll saying that people are having less babies. So they're having less ducklings. And maybe it's because they can't afford to, because they're busy with their own agendas. I want my adult toys. I want my boat. I want my car. I want my kayak. I want my most expensive kayak. I mean, bluntly, you could buy a kayak for under $100. But, I want more and more and more, but I don't want to raise kids. I don't want to be responsible for having the maturity to teach my children myself, but I'd rather pass that off to someone else and have them raise them in a way I think they should go. I'll send them to public school so they get shot at. Well, what do you expect? Come on now. It's public. And in the public, you could get shot at. Bottom line. So we in Judaism have known this for a long time. And we Jews, we have this kind of perspective about it. It's like, you're supposed to be treating family as family. Your family is family. You're supposed to raise them in the way that they should go. And there's a lot of laws, and it's a work strip mostly in Judaism. It's always been a work strip, because as soon as God quit speaking, just like all human beings, if I'm not hearing God speak, I'm doing my own thing. I'm going to interpret and make up my own God. And to put it bluntly, by the time Jesus came, there was a God around for the Jews, but it wasn't the Jewish God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's why Jesus said, you don't even know who your father is. Dare I say, to the Muslim, you don't know who your prophet is if you were killing anyone. So go back to being a good Muslim. Now let's get into, we could get into the Buddhists and, be a good Buddhist. But normally, most Buddhists do pretty good until they get into situations where they, can't be a Buddhist. And then guess what? They change their religion. And I understand the reality of trying to find faith in a godless generation, because that's basically where we're at. We're having a number of people claiming to be things and doing things to get your money or get your attention or get your time. They are manipulating religion to make it into something it's not supposed to be. You can tell me that you don't believe in a God or that God or this God or any God, but in reality, I can only say you do. I've been around long enough. When you're in the hospital, I don't see too many atheists in the hospital, when they're really sick. They want to be relieved no matter what it is. They'll take any opportunity to get relief from pain. Same way that an addict will take any opportunity to get a fix, no matter who it comes from. I mean, if you told an addict that you got to get saved in order to get more drugs, they would immediately become Christians or Muslims or atheists or whatever it is, just so they could get the fix. You see how that's working? That's all about me, myself, and I. And that's not what getting your ducks in order is about. Really, getting your house in order is what it's said in Christianity and Judaism and kind of Western culture. Muslim culture talks about not being so self-centered about yourself, but being focused on what is beneficial to the Muslim community and Islam itself. So I have to say, I don't care where you're coming from. And, I do care somewhat where you're going. But what I care about more than anything else is be true. Get your ducks in order. Get your house in order. Because, you see, I like to talk to people in general about everything. I like to talk to Muslims about Islam without having to have them fear that I'm going to convert them. Hey, maybe you got something I don't have. But, I've been talking to God, and God tells me, me and God have these conversations because I can't get people, human beings, to talk. I'd love to talk to canoeists about canoes, but then they get offended. So they think that I'm anti-canoes. Well, I'm not anti-canoes. I just can't do canoes. I'd like to learn more about how they do canoes, but they don't want to talk. They want to, oh, it's mine and yours is wrong. And we're getting into this tribalism that isn't about getting your ducks in order. You see, the older you get, the less you get pushing away of people, the more you want to understand people, the more you want to relate to people, the more you want to find out, is there something more to life than just fighting, clawing, struggling, or, conning, succeeding, building my network, manipulating human beings in order to get what I want, and provide for them a service along the way. So as long as I have my house, my 3 cars, and my toys, my boys and my girls and my freedom to choose whatever I want to do. Well, okay, but tell me what it's like when you have a heart attack. Who do you depend on? Tell me what it's like when you have a stroke. Where do you go? Tell me what it's like when you die. What's going to happen? Because I don't care whether you accept Christianity. I don't care whether you accept Islam. I don't care whether you accept Buddhism. I don't care whether you accept Catholicism or all these other ones. What I care about is, hey, did you go out and practice it or learn that it was wrong? Because frankly, I think that if you'll test them, try them, check them out, you'll make the right choice in the end, because I'm only going to follow who responds to me. I'm not going to follow you, no offense, because you can't prove you're God. I can prove mine. That's the easy part. Hey, God, tell them, go for it, Lord. You tell them what you're telling me, and I know that him and I, and we'll get along, because that's kind of what you said would happen anyways. So I don't have a problem with, not telling you about God, because you can go do whatever you want to do. You have that freedom. But after you're dead, you don't have that freedom anymore. And so if you tell me, hey, I've checked it all out, this is what I believe. All right, well, fine. Just don't try to tell me it, because I don't believe it. I accept the fact that you believe it. That's fine. Okay, you go for it. But if it's only making you worse and not better, I might tell you, hey, is that really what you want to do in life? Is to be worse, to be a cat out there, waiting to attack ducklings? Or rather, do you want to be like the ducks I see outside my window? Little ducklings, that are all in a row, following their mama, because they know they're protected. Matter of fact, as soon as you see them ducklings hit the water, they're like, where'd mama go? And they follow mama. Because you don't see that many people when they're dying cry out, oh, daddy, where are you? Think about that for a while. Why? Interesting, isn't it? You see, people that deny that God exists or that there's a creator have to come up with a conclusion that they would deny that you come from a mother. Because in reality, you don't come from a father, you come from a mother. And you can't deny the fact you come from a mother, because you can see it, you demonstrate it, it's provable. I follow my God because I can see, I can demonstrate, and I can prove it for myself. People that want to spend a year or 2 or 5 or 10, I'll prove you that God is real, but you may have to invest some time and energy into it. But guess what? No difference than growing up. Tell me you came from that sloppy mess that a mother is, when she's having birth. Ugh, I think babies are ugly, but I know that it's true. I come from you, Mom, only she's dead now. But the point of this being is that's why you need to deal with either knowing that you got something coming on after death, or proving to yourself there's nothing coming on after death and living like it, which is fine. As far as I'm concerned, if you've taken the time to prove it. In that case, your ducks are in order. You're more cat-like and heading for the same destination as some of these cats are headed for than you are where those ducks are headed for. And that isn't just to be eaten, but rather to have fulfilled that purpose for which they were originally made and created. Duck soup. I'm not a vegetarian. I'll tell you like it is. Yeah, some people are born to die. Some people are victims. Some people are meant to be, you don't want to be a victim. Oh, you don't want to be duck soup. You want to be the antagonizer. You want to be the winner, the succeeder. Well, I don't. You see, I have my ducks in order because I am the victim of humanity. I am the one who's willing to lay down my life. I am willing to give up my rights. I am willing to not be involved in politics. I am willing to not follow Muslims or Mormons or even Christians if they're not following Jesus. You see, for me, my duck's in order. I'm following not my papa duck. I'm following not my mama duck. I'm following the one who made the ducks, Jesus. You see, I'm going to follow Jesus no matter what happens in the world or in America or overseas or around the world. Because I've been following Jesus for over 40 years now. And frankly, I'm looking pretty good. Hey, I got one coat that I use all the time for ministry. I got a bunch of hats. I'm happy. I got 2 or 3 kayaks, maybe 2 kayaks now, but I get a chance to play in them. I get a chance to do the things I enjoy because I involve God in them and God involves me in what he's doing. We have this walking and talking kind of interpersonal relationship that I don't call it Christianity because it is, but it's not what you call it. It's not what you define it. It's not what other people say. You could call it a Jesus freak because, yeah, I'm into Jesus. And Jesus tells me about his Father, and I like that too, and about the Spirit of God, and I like that too. But you start getting into systematic theology, and I'm going to eat you alive because I already know the failure of religious observances. I already know where people tend to go off on tangents, where they get out of that pond and start walking around on the grass, ready to be eaten by a cat or anything else that comes along. You see, if the ducks keep their ducklings in the pond or near enough that they can dive into the pond, they're safe. If they get out of the pond, the ducklings, they're liable to get killed. Now, the mature mother and father, they can handle quite a few cats at different times, but cats are pretty smart. They can outwit a lot of the mothers and fathers. So they usually manage to kill off, like this mother went by with 11 ducklings. I imagine cats are going to kill off probably 8 of them or more. It just seems to be what happens here in this apartment complex, which is kind of disgusting to me. But it's a part of what I see humanity doing in response to its relationship with creation out there or outdoors, living inside of the domesticated part of life. Kind of like when people try to put dogs and cats into clothes. I think that's the most disgusting thing I ever heard of. Then you go look at their children and see what they've done to their children or to their families or to their neighbors or to their wives. I don't see it. You see, I look a little deeper. I like to say all of us as human beings have a responsibility to each other, but even that's failing nowadays. What I'd like to say is you have a responsibility to yourself. You are going to die sooner or later, and you're going to have to deal with this subject in your mind that either you understand what's waiting for you or you think nothing's waiting for you and you're living like it. Okay. That's all I'm going to say to you. Is that okay? I may be there when you're dying, because right now I have I don't know what he would even be called, but a person who used to be married to my wife. He had been witnessed to. He had been shared the gospel with. He had even made steps towards recovering from alcoholism that's plagued his life all his life. I don't know that he ever gave over his life to Jesus. I know pretty sure that he didn't. So I'm positive that, or likely, according to Christianity, being told and being given the opportunity and having heard the truth and rejected it and decided to live his own life, hey, probably going to hell, like my grandmother. Now, my mother, contrary to my grandmother, died in faith. She at some point in time rejected what she heard, decided to have a personal relationship, developed it, grew, even wound up doing a ministry of all things. Now, I was impressed because she could be my mother when I got saved. She would be my sister, so to speak, because later she got saved and, I helped counsel her and teach her, and she grew and did her own thing. And praise the Lord, she died in faith. But that means also she could have died outside the faith, which my grandmother did in no uncertain terms. She went out cussing God, cursing the world, and cursing life itself. She was dying of cancer of the throat, and she was smoking till the day she died inside of a nursing home. Bitter, angry, and never recovered or took the opportunity of grace, even though my mother spent lots of time trying to convince her that God could forgive her. Maybe you don't understand forgiveness or mercy. Maybe it's more victim to you or sheeple, which is what we should be. We should be sheep. Because frankly, this isn't my home. This is just kind of like a garbage bin, and you think it's wonderful. I'd go, well, it's nice, but I got a lot more waiting for me. I'm going to be doing some kayaking in the millennium, which is coming, kind of like a neat little thing in the future, but you don't know about that. But my point being is that whatever, when this man dies, now he's had a heart attack, he's had a stroke, he's had some kind of, brain injury. Now people are taking care of him. They're changing his diapers. They're wiping his spittle from his face. He is the epitome of the reality of rejecting God. And unfortunately, you should say fortunately, but unfortunately, his family that seems to slowly be getting saved, one by one, are taking care of him. You see how that works? The ones that are going to live forever and ever and ever with God are taking care of the one who rejected God, so that he can pass out of this life having lived it the way he wanted to. Only he's reduced now to no less than being, quite frankly, a babe, a duckling, waiting to be eaten by a cat. Okay, maybe you like your life and, you think that everything's going to be hunky-dory. But have you prepared for your death? Because, frankly, about 30 years ago, I was told I was going to die before I was 30, and I'm 60 now. So I'm cruising. I'm not snoozing, and the doctors were convinced I would die. Matter of fact, they said, get your house in order. You're out of here. You better make plans and get insurance and get your death burial benefits all in line. Well, all I can say to you is I hope you have your insurances and assurances all together like ducks in a line, ducks in order, ducks in a row. Because I don't know about you, but with all these shootings in schools and, the fact that you could die quicker driving your car from work to home than you can from anything else that goes wrong in the world, I would think that you would want to have, at least in the back of your mind, the security knowing that you took care of your destiny, your reality, your faith. And that means whatever it is. I'm not telling you, follow me. Heck no, man. You don't want to be me. I mean, first of all, you don't want to be a Jew. Boy, such a deal. I'm like Tulia. Hey, God, could you pick someone else for a time to be the chosen? I mean, what did you choose us for? Such a deal. Oy, oy, oy. But if you're Jewish, you kind of understand that, so you kind of go, no, you don't want to be Jewish, unless you're trying to make converts to your way of thinking. But pardon the expression, I'm the same way in my own faith. You don't want to be a Jesus freak. The reality of what you are going to be involved in is a living God. Now, I don't know how to explain this to you any more than just the fact that if God's speaking directly to you, you don't want to listen. You don't want to be involved in that. You don't want to have that real life with God Almighty. It's a scary thing to fall in the hands of a living God. That's what all the people that had a direct conversation or relationship, or even like John went to heaven and back, don't believe the books you're reading about people going to heaven and back. They haven't, according to Jesus. No, they did not. According to Jesus, they only went in their mind to some imaginary, visionary place that they had that, everything's, Mono Land. Oh, boy, we've got the, Muppets, and the little blue people running around, they're all heavenly. And there's my family, never mind if they were Al Capone and murderers and killers and rapists, but, they're in heaven now. Oh, boy. Not. Well, that's what they teach you in those stupid books about, been to heaven 3.5 seconds there or back, or I've been to hell and back. No, you haven't. No, it says no man has ascended, but he who has ascended. And that's Jesus, pardon the expression. John had a vision, but John didn't say that he was there. But, kind of like if it fits the book of Revelation, then maybe I might believe your experience. Otherwise, I'm following who I'm having a conversation with. And so now, yeah, I'm a Jesus freak. But you see, I'm pretty cash. I don't have to tell you every time about the gospel. I don't have to tell you everything about anything. Matter of fact, I probably want to hear what you have to say. And I'll probably go, well, what do you think about this? Kayaks. How do you like inflatable kayaks? I mean, I know what I know. But do you? I face death a lot. So, I mean, somebody came to me and said, well, you nearly died out there on the Mississippi River. I said, not the first time, won't be the last time. It doesn't faze me like maybe you're afraid of dying. It's not that I'm fearless or foolish. It's just that it's a transition. It's a part of living. It's a part of life, which is why I'm asking you, do you have your ducks in order? I know you know how to propagate. That's one of the first things men learn. Hey, let's go out and propagate. Ha ha, for fun. But men and women more than men, but after you've enjoyed your life and you've got all your things, whatever it may be, especially in America, after you've, satisfied your fleshly, hey, I got a bucket list. I don't have a bucket list. I really don't. I told my wife this after I married her, I did Mississippi River, but basically after that, I kind of told her, I said, honey, I've done everything I want to do. Now, what do you want to do in your life? And she doesn't really know. But I said, I've done everything. I don't have a bucket list. I have done everything in my life while I was living it, which I think everybody should do, which is why I'm asking you, do you have your ducks in order? If you don't believe in God, fine. What are you doing in your life to enjoy it, to be a part of it, to live it to the fullness expression of being that you are? You see, I write books about that, Great American Adventure to me is like, hey, waking up going, wow, what is going to be exciting and vibrant and alive for me today? Because that's what I believe every day should be like, not just a drag on, Well, I woke up again today and I have Crohn's disease. Oh, I'm miserable. I got to take this pill and that pill and the other pill and this pill. And, I got to get on the internet and tell everybody else how miserable I am. Misery loves company. I know. I do it a lot. I tell my wife everything that I'm whining about. Then I decide to talk to God, and God says, shut up. I don't want to hear it. Okay. Sorry, Lord. Don't beat me. Because really, an abundant life wasn't about a prosperous life. Jesus said, I come to give you life and life more abundantly. in this life as well as the next, meaning not next of many successions of life after life after life, but in eternity with God. So the reality of an abundant life simply means to have all your faculties firing off, full bore. You're listening with more than ears. You're hearing with more than your hearings, so to speak. You're seeing with more than your eyes. You're experiencing with more than your emotions. I mean, frankly, people say, oh, God, we got to have sex till we have orgasm. Imagine having sex with God. Ooh, that offends a lot of people. Matter of fact, that offends almost everybody. But if Jesus is in my life, dare I say, if God is in me, guess what you're doing, dude? Why do you think it's so offensive to God when you're sleeping with prostitutes or doing other things? God is there. Ew, that's kind of an icky thought. Yeah, that's why you should have a little bit of fear of God in your life. He's not Santa Claus making a list, counting it twice, naughty and nice. No, he's living in you, with you. And if he's not, then he's seeing you and trying to bring you to an understanding that you're on a stage, dude, and everybody's watching, at least in heaven, whether it be Muhammad or anybody. Maybe he's watching from somewhere else. I don't know. But, if you're Muslim, be a good Muslim, and Muslims are watching, or Allah's watching you. So don't do what the terrorists are doing. Do what you know is the peace religion. Same thing with Buddhists. Same thing with anyone else. If you think that you don't believe in God, then be true to what you don't believe in. Don't be a hypocrite, like maybe Donald Trump, or dare I say the evangelicals that are built their wagons and circled their wagons around him, to get their political agendas going. Don't follow them. Get alone. Go out, sit next to a pond, watch the ducks, see Mama Duck get her ducks in order, listen to the little ducklings, call out to Mama Duck, and Mama Duck responds, so that you might decide, somewhere along the line in your life, maybe I need to figure this out before I die, before I wind up in a hospital bed, being kicked out because my insurance won't cover it, but I've got too much to be put into a nursing home. So I've got to sell this and get rid of that, only have to have my family do it for me, because I'm no longer capable of making decisions because I have spittle running down my face. I've been dirtying my diapers. I'm no longer coherent physically, even though maybe, guess what? Inside, I might be perfectly capable of hearing, seeing, and knowing everything that's going on around me. How humiliating can that be for any human when it comes to death and dying? You better get your ducks in order, because you're going to have to deal with it sooner or later.